We talked about platform economy and platform business models. That's just one of them. And last but not least, new competition. And we'll talk a little bit more about these different things.
Absolutely. So we see direct, indirect, and the trends. And direct really is protection against attacks on the software supply chain. So it's about IT security. That's really the big issue here. And we see that many software solutions out there are not well prepared for that. You do some penetration tests, you do some other things, but many of the software we looked at, and most of them which we haven't published yet, we only have 27 until now. It's a really strange thing that IT security is something people never thought about. We were in our silo, and everyone felt comfortable in the silo, but that's not sufficient anymore. We have then the indirect threat. So this is really new regulations through the EU AI Act, through Cyber Resilience Act, and also from other jurisdictions, especially software suppliers who provide their software to clients in the US and China or other regions. So regulations are changing really, really fast. And then last but not least, it's really about voluntary cybersecurity measures, which are becoming more mandatory.
Yeah. So this is just one dimension of new demands that are coming up in the market, but it's a very, very crucial one. Because it's just not negotiable. It's it needs to be met, and we see also software companies being thrown out of projects, so existing relationships, because they cannot meet those cybersecurity requirements. When we look at new technology things that are out there, when there's Service Cloud. Moving to the cloud, when most of the CMS systems that we see as market leaders here, or the established systems, have been written probably somewhere between 10 and 5 years ago. So they started in a world where cloud was something pretty new, and especially cloud services or Service Cloud was a concept that wasn't out there. It was about cloud hosting at that time. So this is something that came into the market, and you have to adapt to it. And it has two sides. I mean, as an established player, you have to make up your mind how you do that, how you make the move into really cloud-first architecture or tech stack. And it opens the door for new competitors. Because with these services that are out there, it's pretty easy. Still, it's not a simple task, but pretty easy to pull together a decent CMS.
A good enough
CMS, right.
Yeah.
So it's really shaking up the market. And software goes through life cycles, and this is actually driving that life cycle for many of the established players to some point of ending, and you have to make up your mind how you want to deal with it. Then the second thing is artificial intelligence. We touched on it this morning in the keynote. There are several things on artificial intelligence. It has two sides, and I think we have a slide on that. So it has the generative side of things, and it has an analytics side of things. And you all know that Gen AI models like ChatGPT, you can use that to create text, pictures, videos, music, and even code. You can create software code with Gen AI. And again, the big question is, what do you do with it in your software products and solutions? How do you leverage it? Is it bringing new feature, or is it bringing additional efficiency into this market? So on the coding side, you can develop code much quicker, much more secure, and so on and so on. So this is going to have an impact on the industry. And new players will leverage these technologies. They grow up with it. And barriers to entry aren't that high. And on the other side, there's the analytic part of AI, which deals with recognition of patterns, basically in text and speech and pictures, video, data, what have you. There again, data-driven digital signage is becoming more and more important to become more relevant, more interactive. And again, how to include these new technologies into your software solutions. Is it just via API and you're relying on third-party solutions there? Do you really have to have your in-house AI capabilities? You probably shouldn't create them all from scratch because it's way too expensive, I can tell you. Training models, even with the new edge models or small language models, it's still a very, very expensive thing to do, and especially getting the training data, getting the models trained, and so on and so on. But these are things you have to deal with as a software company. And the other part is we used to have monolithic software suites.
Software suites, yep.
And basically, you did everything from composer tools, so your customers could actually create content there or create templates, pull in some content, typically by drag and dropping it from other systems. Then you could schedule it and deploy it to players, and they would eventually play out your content. But what we see today is there are many, many things moving away from that monolithic architecture. There are things like Composer. We touched on that as well in the keynote. There are established tools for that or new tools for that. So talking about Adobe or Canva or all these modern ways to actually create content, and we just talked about AI. This will change that field as well. So the question is, do you really need a purpose-built Composer in your digital signage software? Or does it have to be modular and just API plugged in? Same thing, digital asset management. I mean, big companies have that. They don't need another one, and you don't want to drag and drop from your DAM system into your digital signage system. That's not an efficient and good way to do things. So again, a question mark on that. And there are several of these boxes where you can put a question mark. Do you need that in a digital signage software? And the answer maybe is you have to build that module in a modular way. And for that, you have to be API first.
Mm. Stefan, we have the expression headless CMS here. What is a headless CMS?
Yeah, basically, we are looking at digital signage as one playout channel.
One head.
One head. So it's basically bringing your content to a display that sits somewhere in a physical space. That will be one head. But headless really doesn't care how content is played out. It could be on a mobile device. It can be it can be sound. It can be 3D goggles. It can be pretty much anything where you want to have your content displayed. And we had the Siemens case this morning, and that's a very good example of how many different heads you can have. And a headless CMS deals with all the heads. You just manage your content in one place. And in the headless CMS, you then define, okay, I want this content to be played out on these endpoints. And that's what a headless CMS does. It manages basically the different heads. And just one last thing on this slide. It's all the device and network management components. That hasn't been core of digital signage CMS in the past.
No, and very interesting. You mentioned this morning already. Some big corporations who design and create their own software, their own SIN software, and that works okay for them. But most of them are really missing the remote device management part. So there's a huge gap there, and this is where you need some specialists who are really taking care of that, really helping you, enabling them to managing the different forms of hardware. Because in other medias and you're not used to that. You have standards, and you don't need specialized tools for that.
Yeah, and that's the counterpart to headless CMS. There are heads, and unfortunately, digital signage heads are very complex to manage because so many different operating systems, so many different standards out there. It's an important but difficult task at hand there.
Good, Stefan. Talk about platforms and signage as a service.
Yeah, it's two business models. And we talked about product and about solutions. So basically, the product side of the business is being, you can debate it, but potentially being disrupted or enhanced by platforms. because platforms basically set the standards, and you can place a product on top of a platform. It's very difficult to actually do a solution on top of a platform, because platforms live off standards and of standardized APIs and of standardized configurable solutions. And the way you actually customize a platform is by picking different solutions, apps. Yeah, they're typically called apps on top of that platform. And you just have a big choice of apps that sit on top of that platform, and you just make your selection.
That's why also Samsung VXT, which we will discuss after the session, is not really a threat for the enterprise projects. Everything is so tailor-made. Platforms don't work with tailor-made stuff. They work with standardized products. And so where we see the potential of these platforms, it's not only VXT, it's also other visual solution manufacturers who are building things like this. It's really enabling, the entry-level stuff, and then obviously upgrading them later to the tailor-made solution.
Yeah, but they're helping the industry and setting standards and broadening the scope of the industry, making it easier for people to enter the digital signage space. That's the big hope that we have in platforms.
Yeah. Signage as a service?
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin. It's more for the solution side. And if you think through it, you don't want to just deliver a software solution, but the customer wants a full solution for their problem. And that's basically the business model you need to extend into. And we see some companies moving in this direction with Grassfish, basically saying, okay, we're not classical just ISV. Software ISV, but we create solutions for our customers. And there are other examples as well in that moving in that direction.
But signage as a service usually also goes a step further, really combining it with hardware. So you really pay a monthly fee for something, and that includes everything.
Yeah, it's software, it's hardware, it's content, it's hardware management, it's all of these things. It's just running the full system, because that in the end, that's what the brand or the customer who's using it, that's what they care about.
But Stefan, it also brings some threat for some of in the value chain. Either it's bundled with the screen, with the hardware, so the customer really doesn't care what kind of software it is as long as it works, or it's the other way around. He chooses a certain software and he doesn't care what kind of hardware it is as long as it is managed services. So this is really changing the market, and we will see more and more of this coming. So we will see one form or another. One of them will dominate it, and obviously the visual solution vendors are much larger, so they have a better opportunity to manage that in the future.
Yeah, and you can think this business models to an extreme. It's like power by the hour models. It's like when the customer only cares about, okay, I need this uptime of a screen. I need this to be running only during certain times, or I want to have it during opening hours. Why should I pay for something that's not running during night? So business models can be extended far away into that direction.
Good.
New competitors.
Yes, the traditional one, the cloud natives, the hardware vendors. Yes, hardware vendors have developed software, or they acquired software and then sold it, bundled it together with the cloud native ones, which started, with the clean sheet. They have big advantages compared to all of them who have been in the industry for longer. Then we have the non-traditionals, which are the in-house developments, integrators, creating their own software, professional services, professional like Accenture, Deloitte, we mentioned them. These guys creating, tailor-making something for clients.
Yeah, but only for the very, very large end of the clients.
Yes, absolutely. IT and AV companies who are getting more and more interested in this one, for them, they have usually not a historic relationship to any ISV. So they're very open, and they tend to go with the Samsung Magic Infos and the hardware softwares because they don't know better, to put it this way, for them, or it's good enough for them because their clients usually are not that, that strict, they don't need any special things. So for them, it's really, going with something, especially in corporate communications. If it's more in retail, more in experience, it's a little bit different story, but many of them go there. And we're always surprised, how many, there are more than 1 million Magic Info licenses out there. And nobody really knows the big project, but there are hundreds of them. And sometimes you see like big restaurant chains, running 10,000 screens on Magic Info. You see them especially in corporate. I think Bosch was one of them or so. They have their whole corporate network, thousands of screens on Magic Info. So there are a lot of screens, a lot of networks there, and the integrator is not a typical digital signage integrator, but an IT integrator or some professional service company, and they are selling this stuff in. So we need to address them too, or you need to address them too, and you need to find how you can widen your offering not only to specialized digital signage integrators, but to Pro AV, to IT, and to whoever's out there to better understand that. That's absolutely necessary. Then we have mobile natives. This is something like Framen also, guys who just entered the market 2-3 years ago, and they do everything different. They don't care about professional screens. They don't care about wired. They just do everything what you would do when you start something totally new, free of all the old stuff, and just say, we make it work. And if it's 80-90%, that's fine too, because we're so much cheaper, we're so much more agile, we're so much faster, we just do things because it just works. And that's a totally different mindset, totally different approach, and it's okay for many clients, let's face it. For hotels and DIY, they're fine with that. Well, they just take a simple screen from the supermarket TV, which is not a professional screen, it runs on it, has some programmatic on it, and it just works. Is it a competition to the highly sophisticated Grassfish, whatever, advertise it, special solution? No, it's not, but we have some overlaps, and these overlaps may become bigger and bigger because it's good enough.
Yeah. And they are running on a different business model. They are not running on we need to make money on software license. They make their money elsewhere.
Exactly.
That's business model disruption. That's the thing that's happening there.
Yeah.
And last but not least, we have communication specialists, basically companies coming largely from corporate communications, like AppSpace. They look at signage as like, no, it's a communication channel for us.
Or Zoom. I mean, they give it away for free, basically. You have the Zoom corporate license, and they have digital signage when you don't use the screen. Is it real competition to digital signage? Well, sort of. Some clients decide I don't need a special license for that. So there's some more and more overlaps. We see more and more stuff coming there.
Yeah, and for them again, just another communication channel they catering to.
Good.
So how do you react to all of this as a software company?
Tell me.
And for us, there are a couple of options you basically have as a software company. You can try to become a niche specialist, to become very good at specific features. So you do something better than everybody else in the industry. You play very good on your niche.
Like Intuiface, for example, for touch.
Yeah. And they are focused completely on touch. They are not a traditional CMS, but what they do, they are the best in touch.
They're not a broadliner, but they're very good at certain things.
Yeah. Then the second way forward could be platform partner. Look at Samsung is offering basically VXT partnerships, and if you believe in Samsung's going to rule large parts of the market or be successful with VXT, it's something you should look into. Become one of the Samsung partners. Be one of their apps. Again, you need to prove that you're adding value there, because there are going to be many apps on the platform, but they are creating a market. They are creating more business, and you can grab a share of that. So it's a potential way forward.
Vertical specialists, broad sign, digital out of home, very simple. They're fantastic at what they do. Specialized solutions for vertical markets, that's unbeatable. That's a very simple one. And friction removers. So what is a friction remover, Stefan?
Well, we talked about complexity in operating systems a lot. So the example here would be Signage OS, because they are taking away a lot of the pain of handling mixed fleet networks by just standardizing or giving you a standardized API or tools to actually cope with many different types of hardware. So everywhere where you see high complexity, so when you experience yourself that you're having a hard time because you have to do many things for many different platforms, that's a potential point to become a friction remover.
So be a broadliner. Most of you try to be a broadliner, but maybe it's useful just to focus on a niche, be a platform partner, be a vertical specialist, or be a friction remover.
Yeah. Cool. So what do you need for it? It's pretty simple and straightforward. Software is and always has been a scale game. So it's a fixed cost business, and you need scale to bring your costs to a level where you can survive. So you need money during that time to build up scale. You need focus, because we have too many broadline, undifferentiated software companies out there. The competition is brutal. And you need partners, because you are part of a digital signage solution. You need partners on the hardware side, on the software side, on the content side, on adjacent systems. So many partners you will need.
Good. Yeah.
So we put up the statement. It's probably a bold statement, but choosing the right software partner is probably the single most important decision after selecting an integrator in digital signage. So it is an important decision, and we've learned that from the industry that many are struggling to make that right decision, and that's why we decided to do what?
The Software's Campus.
To create this nice little tool you see in the back here. It is our attempt to give transparency, or at least a little bit of transparency, to this very complex market. We've added 27 different CMS systems into this logic, and you see there are some kind of levers where you can actually input your needs, what's important for you, what's not important for you. So if you care a lot about user interface or security, you should pull that lever all the way to the right. Other levers you can leave on the left, and the tool will rate different software platforms on 8 different scales, and you'll see the results in that spiderweb graphic or as a list. But it gives you a first hint of, according to your needs, what are the 5 to 10 most relevant or best software companies in the market for those needs. And that's what the core of the Digital Signage Compass is all about. Of course, you can click on individual companies, you can see the details, what they are doing in terms of hosting, in terms of IT security, in terms of all these different dimensions, which platforms they support, and so on and so on. You can also filter on those, so you can play around with it. So it's a very good tool to make software selection, and B, for all your ISV and software companies out there, it's a very good tool for you to compare to your competition.
Talking about comparing and competition, Stefan?
Yeah, this is just one of the analysis we did, is looking at what's the gap between the average of the industry to the maximum score. So and you see the big topics where there's still room to improve for the CMS systems is multi-platform support, because that's very complex and very costly to handle. So we understand why many of you only support a couple of major platforms. Security is the second topic. Many of you started on your ISO 27001 certifications, also 2 certifications, but there's, again, still a lot of room to improve. And the third category is operations. It's about how your hosting setup works, how your device management and everything works around that.
Exactly. And user interface, for example, is one of the issues where most of you have quite a good offering, I must say. I mean, also 27, the vast majority of them were okay.
Yeah, it's a mature industry product. I mean, in terms of user interface, there are certain standards and certain ways how things are being handled.
Good. So is same, but different, or just good enough? That's the question. So, Stefan, where do we see, what's the tech stack?
Yeah, it's really a question of, are you server or serverless in the cloud? So are you just cloud hosted, or are you cloud native? On the API first, yeah, it's no future without standard APIs. So we've heard the sentence so many times, oh, we can create that API anytime. That's not what we're talking about when we're talking about API first and standard APIs.
And documentation is really important, public documentation. And only very few ISV vendors out there have all the APIs, all the documentation on their website. Very few of them. And if there's documentation, it's usually awful. So it's really important. No standard API before, without all the documentation.
Yeah. You talked about user interfaces, so you shouldn't judge the book by its cover. Multi-platform support, I also talked about it. To cover really a broad set of platforms, you need to have scale because it's a costly task. And last but not least, device management, Florian.
Yeah, well, that's the biggest challenge in digital signage. We have so many hundreds of different platforms and versions, and it's very difficult to manage that. So we need to make sure that your service, or at least a service you add to yours, is able to manage to remotely manage that. That's essential. Yeah. Good.
Very good.
Pretty good. This was an theoretical overview, like we love to do. We could do it even more. I know you're really eager to see now who's best and who's not, but that's a different chapter. For us, it's really the multi-platform support, which we believe where really there's lots of stuff to do, and also how to find a USP. We don't see with most of the solutions out there, they're missing a unique selling point. We just don't see it. It's just one broadliner next to another, and we believe that's not sustainable. So you really need to look at, where are you really good at? Where do you want to focus on? Grassfish, they claim, they're the in-store experts, in-store experience platform. It's a claim, it's a positioning that's easy to understand. Intuitive Face, they know exactly we're the touch experts. Broadsign, digital out of home. So please make sure that you're specialized in something. That's a really important story. And just being the 2,000 other platform, just doing everything just doesn't work. And it's frustrating to see how much just average stuff is out there.
But still, it's an exciting time to be a software company. A lot of challenges, but also a lot of opportunity out there in the market. You just have to make up your mind how you handle it.